Hi, everyone. We are live. Welcome. Today, we have a special topic and a special guest. I have with me today Scott Raether. He is going to introduce himself, but what we are talking about today is how you should use a people-first career search strategy. And we are going to talk about substituting the word networking with the word relationship building in your job search. Scott, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your background, and then we will get into the conversation.
Absolutely. And thanks for having me, Jamie. I greatly appreciate it. So I work at the Airman and Family Readiness Center for the Air Force. I've been there for 10 years, and I am the employment program manager at Scott Air Force Base. So everything related to the job search process, resume writing, interviewing, navigating a job search, federal employment, LinkedIn, obviously. And the one thing that I'm so happy that Jamie brought me on to talk about is this process of moving away from the word networking and really focusing on building relationships and offering tips on how to build that relationship to find your next opportunity. So with that said, I do have a question for Jamie. When and why did you learn to despise this word networking so much?
Well, you're cross-interviewing me. This is fun.
I am, right?
Yeah. For those people in the audience, if you hear any rattling noises or cooing or crying, it's because right behind me in the floor is a 5-month-old bouncing around in that device thing. So I despise the word networking. I almost think it's a societal thing where people hear the word networking and the association is you're schmoozing, you're going to an event and handing out business cards that nobody's ever going to call the number on. There he goes. He's talking to us too. You're going to up to people that you don't know, giving them a 30-second elevator pitch and trying to sell them something. I think in general, when we hear networking, it's a visceral response in our gut that kind of it's icky feeling and we don't like it. But when you substitute that word networking with the word relationship building, nobody gets the ickies about that. They always feel really, it feels more natural, like what we're supposed to be doing. And then to take and internally, even if you still say networking, and just to internally change your definition from networking to relationship building changes the way you do networking.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I see a lot of people when they think the word networking, it's like you said, I'm going to go get me a bunch of business cards, and it almost becomes sort of a one-way street. And the best way to move into a new career, particularly for a military spouse, where there's all these sort of barriers to employment, whether it's a gap in employment or moving around quite a bit, the building of a relationship is what's going to help get you to that other level, because instead of looking at what's just available on paper, now they're seeing the whole person. And the best way to make that happen is by, to me, paying it forward and helping other people out. So I always kind of like to use a sports analogy. Don't know how many people we have out there that are into sports, but this could go around to everything. It's about letting the game come to you. You often hear a sports analyst say they're forcing the game. They're trying too hard. Just let the game come to you. And I feel like that's how a job search should be. If you're focused on helping other people through this process, then the more opportunities that are going to come to you that you didn't even know existed. And it's really kind of a great way to tap into that hidden job market. So I really believe that building relationships, helping other people is going to pay dividends in the long run.
Yeah, you're speaking my language over there, Scott. And so I specifically, when I think of military spouses, what comes to my mind is how rich the networking or the relationship building opportunity really is. Because if you've been around the military community for 5 minutes, you know that it shrinks and it gets, hold on a second.
So yeah, you're right. It does. It's a small world.
Yeah, it shrinks over time. And then the longer you are in it and around it, he's going to be just because of
It's okay.
But the longer you're in it and around it, the more people you get to know. And then as you start moving places, then you already know other military spouses and military families in your area. And so I always like to think for military spouses specifically that moving is one of the best relationship building benefits that we have in our community.
I agree. And then, I mean, the advent of LinkedIn has just sort of made that world even smaller, so to speak. So if you are a military spouse and you're preparing for a PCS, you want to start to connect with and follow other spouses or veteran advocates or even military members or veterans that are in that area that you're going to. And it's one of the things that I teach in my LinkedIn workshop is how to do an effective search by just in the chat or in the search box, in quotes, mil spouse advocate. And then if you're going to Tampa, location Tampa Bay, or veteran advocate, Tampa Bay. And you're going to find all these people that you can start to connect with, follow, engage, build relationships. And then the opportunities are going to start to come. And you can do this long before you even reach that new duty station. The same could be done by finding groups that are available. Groups don't hold as much weight as they used to, but it's still a great way to find people that are participating in some sort of a formal organization that you can connect with and just once again kind of build those relationships. And then above and beyond all the other sort of networking groups that are available on LinkedIn as well that have sort of side events where you can grow that community.
Yes. And one thing I will say also is that I like to always throw this tip out there for anybody. It's not just for military spouses, but when you start really doing this relationship building, you should be talking to people pretty regularly, because that's the whole point of a relationship, is staying in touch and having a solid ground that you can stand on with them. And then it gets to be about, service, right? How can I help you? You're coming to people for mentorship, to learn from them about their position, maybe to talk about their industry. And then how can I help you, right? That's got to be your attitude is, can you, is there something I can learn from you? And how can I help you? Let's talk about, there's an attitude of, hey, can you get me a job? That gets stigmatized with networking, right? Mm-hmm. But when you're relationship building, it becomes mutually beneficial to you both.
Yep. So it's exactly what you're saying. There's a lot of times you may see an individual that's posting great content, or they're providing great advice. And by knowing that advice, you can pass that on to another person that you're speaking with. And I always say, and I'm sure you're going to agree with me, the military spouse serves just as much as the military member. And for the military member, we often hear the term service before self. And if we take that play on words, and we're not necessarily talking about military service at this point, but once again, helping and serving other people before serving yourself, once again, those opportunities are going to come to you. I know of one person who recently got on LinkedIn within the last 6 months, and her engagement, and it's not just so much that she was posting her own content and coming up with her own ideas, but it was just a matter of engaging in what other people are writing, got her name kind of out there, and she was approached by 2, Fortune 100 companies about job opportunities just because they liked the way that she was paying it forward. And that's really what it's all about. And as far as keeping your network engaged, I always like to go to notifications. So I drop down in my notifications if a person has ever started a new job, or maybe they got promoted, or they're going to college, or their birthday, whatever it might be. If there's anything changing that I see is happening with somebody in my network, I always make sure that I provide them with a unique comment, congratulations. I don't use the generic one that LinkedIn, kind of gives us a tip on what to use. I make something unique and something that's a little bit more genuine. And that's a way to keep my network engaged. Because when you have over 15,000 people in your network that you've built relationships with, you want to make sure that they continue to see you and know that you're out there and you're available to help them. So it's really good to try to keep that fresh and don't lose that momentum that you get as you move forward through this.
Yes, and there's something to be said about quality over quantity. LinkedIn is a place that really quickly, for right now anyway, the algorithm is such to where if you do engage a lot and you're actively using LinkedIn and commenting and sharing your own posts, LinkedIn is a social media platform that boosts your followership, right? You get a lot more eyes on your content, and then people start clicking that connect button with you. But there's something to be said about making quality connections on LinkedIn or anywhere, vice having a lot of them, because it gets too big after a while. I'm sure you've probably felt that, where LinkedIn grows really big, and then suddenly you're looking at people you don't even recognize, and you don't know who they are very much. You've never done anything together. You haven't even sent messages to each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, there's no relationship at all. It's just a mutual connection. And that's not helpful to you when you're on your career search.
Absolutely. Yep. No, you're right. Because I mean, as you're engaged and as you're commenting on what other people are posting, or you're creating your own content, you're going to start to get a feel of those people that are like-minded. So, I'm connected to 15,000 people, but they're all going to be military spouses, veterans, recruiters, human resources, managers, people that can make decisions. And I'm getting up there with the amount of them. I don't see myself getting to 30,000 because I'll often go through and I'll sort of parse my network a little bit. But by molding the amount of people and the right people that you are building relationships with, that'll drive the positive content that goes into your feed.
Right. And so just so as a viewer, if you have any questions for Scott, if you have any questions for myself, drop in the comments and ask them while we're live. We have a couple more minutes left. And if you drop that question in, we'll answer it while we're live. And then even later, if you're asking them after the fact, we'll see it and we'll make sure to get your questions answered. Feel free to ask us any career related question. It doesn't just have to be about, people first career search. It can be about anything, because him and I are both pretty well versed in helping you find a position. So Scott, let's talk specifically before we get ready to close out here in the next couple of minutes. Let's talk about any final words of wisdom or tips that you may have for military spouses when it comes to using a people first career search.
Once again, I would focus on sharing your knowledge to help other people out. The experiences that you've gone through, and a lot of times, it's a negative experience that you might have had that you can share to somebody, so that way they don't have to go through that negative experience, or it's a positive experience, and it can relate from everything to, PCSing from overseas to back to the States and having to take care of a 5-month-old child while running your own business. It could be, the job search process. It could be the military transition process in general. If your spouse is preparing to leave the service, you got to worry about the disability claims and, the potential of moving again. You got the kiddos to worry about. There's just so much going on. And by sharing the knowledge that you have had, it can only help in getting you to where you need to go, but also help somebody else getting to where they need to go. And my sort of way of paying it forward, what I had decided to do for November and preparing us for 2021 is offer 12 events for 2021. And we've done 2 events so far. We have done corporate resume writing and hands-on LinkedIn. And then Jamie has been nice enough to be number 3. So the rest of this week, we will have mock interviewing. We're going to have navigating the job fair and networking event, which we put a spin on that to talk about going to network events in a more virtual setting. And then on Friday, I will be doing military spouse employment with Liz Scruggs at Instant Teams. And we're just going to do A to Z in the job search process, sort of quick hits on all the little different things that you have to do to find employment. And then a big one that'll be next week will be federal employment. And in our federal employment workshop, it's concerning writing your federal resume, understanding USA jobs, and then, of course, the priority placement program for military spouses. So a lot of great stuff happening this month, and I'm always open to help in any way I possibly can.
Yeah, military spouses and USA jobs. That is a Pandora's box, my friend.
we can get together for another conversation about that.
USA jobs, that's how my business got started. Was writing those resumes for folks. And man, it is a beast. So I really admire everything that you do for military spouses, Scott. This is, you have some great events coming up. And I also really love Liz Scruggs from Instant Teams. I knew her a little while back, and we had gotten involved with another group, and it was wonderful. So she's going to be a great guest. Yep. But yes, we had a number of comments that came in while we were chatting, Scott. None of them were actually questions, but just some things we'll go back and look at and answer in a minute. And thank you all for watching. We appreciate you and your time today. And we will be back again throughout the week doing more live sessions. So we'll see everybody later.
All right. Take care. Thanks again, JV.